The women rights committees started as a model that facilitate women's rights, property rights, political rights. And specifically, the women's rights committees are elected by the majority of women in the village. Now we have about 42 women's rights committees, and the women in the village, they meet, they discuss issues like domestic violence, land rights, land alienations, political processes. And these women, traditionally, Maasai women lack a forum to meet and discuss their own issues.
Wamama wa Kimasai kwa kweli hawana haki na ardhi. Hawana haki na ardhi, kwanza kabisa tukijua tu kwamba mama wa Kimasai anategemea sana mzee. Kwa hiyo kila kitu yeye anajua, mzee ndiye anajua. Hata masuala ya ardhi wamama wanajua ni mambo ya wazee. Hata mikutano
mirore nkituak nkishu tarmaasai. Kiata nkitone jana. Enalore na nupa inyangu enkine tenalore baada obo nemishiri erenole. Mene nkitok. Hata tenikininga nkera ine yore nkara naata shida nakaliki ajoki kiata nyamali ejo entimira naje. Kake nkishu toontomonok ata naayie natasotuo noolewa.
Amu ore tenakata ena kijiji nikitii oloipirie naa enkata oloipirie. Naa ninye naduo oshi etii migogoro enkulukuoni aisul. Amu kiata enkampuni naji NOBC naawa ninye karibia nkijijini naara 8. Naa ore kuna ampunini pokirare naa nkampunini sapukin naa serikali sii eimutua.
Ore enataasa lewa naa keji nteita entasat nitaho olee oiwakilisha ena tomononi oiwakilisha lewa peeku elele akiwakilisha entomononi amishiakinore peelioyie ake enkinyishu entomononi alio ajo emene peemitasheki lewa. Ashunyoro tenkai egel kuneng'eru nkujit aibung peetumoki aiguana tiatua lewa.
The objective or the philosophy of these women's rights committees is to make sure that women are actively participating in the land rights issues, like making sure that the land is no longer alienated. They also make sure that any deal to do with land, they have to be part of it. Also to mobilize the women to become part of the political processes. For example, they have to make sure that there are women representative in the village government, there are women representative at the ward level, and there are women representative at the district level, and they are specifically speaking issues that are important and they are affecting women. And like issues of property ownership, issues of early marriages, issues of forced marriages, and issues of domestic violence. And the other big issue is really to make sure that domestic violence cases are reported, and there is no fear of a woman going to the police to talk about the harassment that happened to her.
Naitoki atum enkerai ontoyie nemeeta ngotonye honyo pi, meeta nyinkine, meeta enker, naa kegirai aaraki orpayian ena kerai. Ore ake duo ata nitu idip ena tito ataanyu mtihani, niteri amir ainosie nkishu 10. Nalaku ametii ewueji neji olchorro. Nadumu ormukambo nalo ayau ina tito. Nalotu arrip tenkaji ai lapaitin 2, nalotu aarare amaatoomon iltung'anak le PWC nisomesha ina tito. Etii tenakata ina tito shule. Nee nija ajing'ura ena nafasi nintasheki kulo tung'anak 20 kutetea haki. Naa keeta waadui tieyie kake ore tenkai naa kirrip enkai kake eeta waadui kumok. Kitaarate oleng oltung'anak kumok tumekosana kidogo tenkaraki kisujakita kuna
The women's rights committees are consisting of 20 women and 5 men. These men are particularly, most of them are traditional leaders or influential men who believe or trust in women and believe that women are equal partners. And these men, the role specifically of these men is to advocate the right of women in the community.
Ore apa yiok entoki edukuya nikitang'asa atum peelotu ayaki yiok CRT ena ng'eno naa naboishu. Ore naa taata peepuo aaponu kuna rishat, neetuoki naa taata aiteng'en iyiook entoki naji haki naa kishiakinore pee erisio esipata olee wenenkitok. Ore naa taata pee kipuo aaponu aabaiki ine wueji, nikiponu naa apa iyiook aajo orbarasa loontomonok. Pooki piidim aikuna teniking'as aajing' naboishu olewa lang' amu inakata ake elo aitashe ena sipata. Ore naa pee kiponu iyiook aaponu aibung'a, nikinterr aaku ekitang'asa iyiook nikiponu aayiaya intomonok, sirkali enkijiji, nikintutum olaiguanak le mila likiata. Ore pee kiponu aitutum, nikiponu aanyorrakino nchere ore kuna baa naa sidan tenikipuo tenebo.
The women's rights committees are doing so many activities, and we found that they are very effective. For example, normally when there is a domestic violence case, for example, when a husband dies, the woman might get a lot of problems, or their livestock or property will be owned by the relative of the deceased. But the women rights committees now have taken that role to make sure that if there is any problem like domestic violence or property problem between with the women, they discuss in the community as women, and they bring it forward, and they go to the village government, which is another legal entity that is supposed to support the development in the village as well as resolve conflicts.
Tenele entomononi pee etum enyamali ormaasai eara orpayian lenye eoruni nkishu enyana nikidumunye ilaiguanak aapuo aaretoki ina tomononi pee meoruni nkishu enyana pee etumoki ataramatie nkera enye onkulie kinyalat pookin naalio ajo erumisho toontomonok neretoki ilaiguanak pee meas ina toki.
Ketii haki nakinyang'anyiro kira ilaiguanak. Ore ena naaji naji entasat nemeeta ormoruo, iyiook aitasheki haki mekure ejung'i nenyamali enye ometua metaa eeta haki tine. Ore enainyal ormoruo naa iyiook aang'adu tina ang' meshomo aitasheki atum haki toonkishu enyenak toonkera enyenak.
Each women rights committee in the village, they have their leadership. They have the secretary and they have the chair lady. So at the district level, we bring all the leaders of the women's rights committees and we give them paralegal training, specific issues related to women, land rights training, what is the land law says, what is the civil rights means, what it takes to be a good leader. So we have all of them at the district level and we give them specific training. And when they go back, they are now going back to meet the rest of the women's rights committees in the village and disseminate the messages from what they got in the training. So this is the structure at the district level.
Ore tanji kuna baa pookin naiteng'enaki apa iyiook tiatua seminani netaretokito iyiook omape dukuya omatayiolito mbaa apa nemikiyiolo. Ore tanji tiatua mbaa ena kulukuoni nikitayiolito ajo kiata apa siyiook intomonok haki pee kimiliki enkulukuoni. Nikitayiolito mbaa emirathi, yaani enjung'ore. Nikitayiolito haki entomononi nemeeta nkera, entomononi nitu eisho. Lasima ake sinye peetum haki enye tenkata nalo aaku etua ormoruo, nemekure enapa orihori neme osikiria ihori, aeton sinye tina ang' orpayian lenye neton aimiliki ina daa enye mpaka sinye kenya enkata nanoto natabawua enkata enye.
We've come to see results as the program goes forward, especially when we came to join the men and the women to share and discuss their issues. The men have come to realize that even women can own, they have the right to own property. And that's why the traditional leaders have reduced their rigidity and have accepted women in their cultural aspect to own property, to to participate in decision making in meetings without the segregation that had been there before.
Mekure etii nkiguanat taata duo naasitai metii ntomonok. Eetuoki aisho yiok tukul esipata tine. Metaa tenaa ketii nai enyamali natadua ntomonok netaa keeta haki kabisa peelimu tiatua lewa. Nikitadua naa sii apa yiok aajo etaa pookin entoki naidim ataa kitetea ntomonok peening'oi sauti naa ele barasa. Nikiponu aajing'aki sirkali enkijiji nikiponu naa aliki aajo ore oshi ntomonok nikiata tene naa sana nkolia nemeeta irpayiani naa kishiakinore netu sininche nkulukuoni naturoki nkera enye. Ore naa peekiponu aajo nejia nikiya apa nkarn sirkali enkijiji oontomonok are nenoto pokirare nkiwanjani.
Ore entoki naishoo yiok mpaka tanakata manoto ajo kiindim aitetea kuna naa tenkaraki kulo barasani oishooki yiok oiteng'enakaki yiok nikinteru apa nikidol ajo kumbe idim enkitok aitasheki sinye haki enye. Amu ore duo apa yiok tiatua mila miitiu ninye enkitok ashomo enkiguana. Nimirusuni apa nkituak ormaasai peeponu amanaa tene aas inchugulini enye. Kake ore aiteru tanakata etaretoko yiok Enkai amu kinoto kulo shirikani laa ninche ootabolokitio yiok neema sapuk. Enemutu ake duo mee kulo shirikani enata apake kingenero. Amu itu aikata kidol enkata naetuo sirkali aponu aiteng'en intasati ajoki enyito entaas inchugulini.
The specific program we work with has been trying to uplift the voices of women to demand their rights in terms of property ownership, in terms of decision making, in terms of participation in land. And we've done a series of training to try to make women understand their legal role in land activities, their rights, and this has made women aware of what they can be able to do and what they are supposed to do.
Ore tukul entoki natagolikio nche yiok inkituak naa ke ore peepejori nkang'itie neisik ilewa aapuo ning'uari nche yiok intasati tiatua toonkang'itie. Omatejo mee nejia enyito matudumu maandamano peyie king'uraa tenaa kening' sirkali peyie elo Lemurabui. Nikidumu maandamano nikipuo enkopis enchama olari loo 2009. Nikintoki aajing' inkiguanat ormaasai sapukin. Nikiponu aajo ematushuk inkadii. Nikiyau inkadii 2,500. Nikiponu aashuk tolorien eeta entume nayewuo orbungei. Nikishukoki tolorien naa ikitotonitio ntomonok pookin metaa mee nabo. Omeetu ilewa aponu aajoki yiok kiruko pee kiaku tenebo ntae. Nikidumunye ntomonok naara 100 nikipuo aamua apetii Dodoma. Nikipuo aomonu matijing' atua bunge. Nikipuo aaduare Lasiri. Nikijoki kietuo peekiponu aaduaki ate enapa sipata ang' tenkaraki enapa natiakita yiok entume ootu entodol. Nejokini yiok aikincho ntae empalai nalo aisho ntae enkulukuoni inyi. Nikijo entang'amu ena palai nikiya enkiguana esoisambu. Nikijo aita ena palai enkiguana esoisambu torrono pii mishorita yiok esipata. Netejo taa sii Alasiri kalotu. Netejo apa kalotu ntareheni 10 olapa le 7. Ntareheni 25 taata kitii ilo apa eitu elotu nitu kining' ajo kanyioo peyie eitu elotu. Neeku naa mikiyiolo sirkali enaasita. Naa kegolikito yiok intomonok amu mikiata ninye yiok enchoto nikitii tenkulukuoni. Metaa mikiyiolo yiok sirkali ang' e Tanzania ajo kaalo egira aimie yiok amu kiata esipata enkulukuoni kake meponu aaliki yiok.
Etang'asa sinche sirkali aponu duo nai enaa lang'orok duo nai iltung'anak oota nguvu. Ore naa peejo kiponu peedol ajo meshuko kulo tung'anak. Nitulia naa ninche sirkali kake kitulia ake sininche enkiti kidogo amu ketejo matang'asa aisho ena toki metang'asa ena hasira ekuna kituak meisha amu lasima ake peekiponu aing'uraa ene wueji amu keyieu naake mpaka tenakata ore tenakata mpaka leo hii kitoni tene. Ketii ake ine wueji olarrabal mpaka tenakata.
We have seen women land question also as a unique issue which we thought needed a different treatment, particularly helping women groups to own land, especially widow, because there's a tendency of traditional institutions and customs to ignore women. So we've started developing women groups and help them acquire land, collectively or individually, individual women titles to land. And it's really, it's empowering women. We're seeing that women now are more empowered when they have land and so on. And we have seen very successful cases in Loliondo where women are more mobilized and then they come forward when questions of land are at stake.
Pastoral Women Council would very much like this work to continue because we want to strengthen the capacity of these leaders, the community leaders, and we want to have them, we want them to become effective. This model of women's rights committees is not existing in many areas, and we have found out that we have seen a big impact and we want to strengthen it. We want to provide more training, we want to provide more resources, at least for the next 5 years to come. We want to see other institutions locally and regionally adopt this model, and we can only do that if we are able to give them more training, link them with the rest of women in Tanzania, and make them really, really effective. So we definitely want the support of other donors and the existing donors now to continue supporting our effort, because we still have a big gap in building their capacity, because there are so many, there are 42, and it takes time and resources to educate them. But once we strengthen their capacity, this innovation strategy is very, very important in bringing about change.